Sorry, I couldn't get into my house. I forgot to make a door. So copper tools and armor are officially part of Minecraft. The update's out, we can't turn back. These new items, along with the other new copper features, are part of the never-ending journey to make copper useful. And if we check in on what the community thinks of the new gear, they love it. Wait, when did I get a door? Ever since the reveal of the new items, copper armor, but especially copper tools, have been fairly divisive. It seems that you either love this stuff, or it's the final straw and now you exclusively play Blockcraft 3D building game. Many see this set as completely useless. Copper tools have the same mining level and attack damage as stone, and it's just a very basic set of gear with nothing unique about it. But others argue that that's the point. Because of how common copper is, it had to be a very early game set, and it's just meant to be a basic set of gear for players in the early game, and even helps with saving on iron during that time. You'll find many arguments for both sides, and I think that both sides have valid and understandable points, but I can't help but think that how you view this whole thing seems pretty reliant on your own personal playstyle, as well as how you see Minecraft's progression. Part of the problem some have with copper tools is less of a problem of copper tools specifically, and more so about the game's progression as a whole. And I think that understanding these items' relationship with the progression system, along with who or what these items are primarily made for, will help us understand just what copper tools are trying to solve, or just do for the game. So, like said, one of the main issues people have with copper tools is, for a tool set, it seems to do nothing for the progression of tools. If we look at how things tended to go before, you'd get wood for wooden tools, then use the wood to mine stone for stone tools, use the stone to mine iron for iron tools, use the iron to mine diamonds for diamond tools, then use the diamonds to mine ancient debris and gold for netherite to make netherite tools. After the addition of copper tools, you get wood to mine stone, use stone to mine copper, and then use copper to mine iron? But the thing is, with the introduction of copper tools, nothing else in the progression has changed, and so you can still mine iron with stone, completely skipping over copper. The alternative would be putting copper between stone and iron and removing stone's ability to mine iron, which would probably just feel like unnecessarily padding out the progression, especially when it was shorter before, and would just confuse players who are already used to not mining copper and just mining iron with their stone pickaxe. Copper armor and tools have to at least be very early game, since it's one of the most common ores, especially given ore vein sizes, and even without fortune, each copper ore drops 2 to 5 raw copper. And since you need stone to get copper, copper has to be better than stone in some way, but since it's easier to get than iron, it shouldn't be as good as iron, because then if it was, then now iron tools and armor would seem useless given how copper is easier to get. But if iron was still required to mine diamonds, then it's the tool set that just seems like an unnecessary stepping stone in progression, in the same way that forcing copper to get iron would seem unnecessary and just make the progression take longer than before. This is why I say to some, this is more of a progression issue, since there's nowhere copper can really go, and so it seems pretty useless. If we're looking at this from a purely progression side, if you take a look at the progression line I showed, you may notice that some items aren't here. While there are more tools and armor, some of them are actually pretty useless for the player most of the time, but I want to focus on these two, gold armor and the turtle shell. Gold armor isn't focused on being part of the progression, but rather has its own gimmick, that being that it's used to keep piglins from attacking you in the nether. And the turtle shell is again not part of the general progression, but is used for underwater exploration. Any moment that your head is exposed to air, you're given 10 seconds of water breathing. This basically acts as a way of bringing back the old trick where you just make an air pocket for a split second and it would instantly refill your bubble meter. The reason that I'm talking about this is that this shows that a tool set or armor set can exist without actually being focused on the main progression, as long as there's something else that it's trying to do or accomplish. And because Mojang knows that without making major changes to progression to make this fit in with the progression line, I think Mojang decided to focus on something else. What I'm about to say is probably going to sound crazy, but it's what I think Mojang's idea with copper tools and armor were. Not what I think it should be, there are definitely some changes I would have personally made, but rather their thought process and what kind of player they had in mind for the version that we see in the full game now. Copper tools and armor are intentionally designed to be non-progressive or non-progression centric items. The reason for this is that this set is designed mostly for players who don't go through the game's progression, at least not that quickly, which includes newer and less experienced players. I'm talking about players who don't explore that often and tend to stay in one place, who don't care about getting diamond or netherite gear and enchanting it, either because they want to focus on something else or they just don't want to risk dying. These are the players who already spend most of their time on stone and iron tools, because they find it more fun to get basic gear and then mess around. These players are already going to mine copper, and they'll see that it's an easy set of tools, but especially armor. And something to remember is that even though copper tools can only mine the same blocks as stone, their mining speed is closer to iron than it is to stone. So of course, if they're already spending most of their time on this tier, they're going to choose the faster set that's almost trivially as easy to get. Many of you watching may be this type of player, or know someone who is. For example, on an SMP that I was on a while back, there was one person who played on the server a lot, but for almost the entire SMP were gold armor that he found in a ruined portal and whatever other armor that he could get from other people. He used almost exclusively stone and iron tools, and his base was a platform on the side of a hill made out of birch planks and a few blocks of glowstone that he could get without dying. He wasn't really focused on getting better gear, he just messed around either on his own or with friends. This is the perfect player for copper tools and armor. In fact, I remember him saying that copper tools should be added multiple times ever since copper was introduced. This is the player that this stuff is made for. Again, I'm not saying this is how it should be. I've seen other people's ideas that I think would actually be pretty cool, but based entirely on how copper tools and armor were implemented, this is how I think the thought process went and what Mojang had in mind. And another thing to consider, I think that because this is an early game feature, regardless of how this could have been implemented, there were still going to be people who are going to call this stuff useless. So what do copper tools and armor solve for Minecraft? Well, I don't think it solves anything. I think it helps, and I'd rather it exist than not. I think most people would agree. But I don't think that it was designed to fill any gaps that seem missing. And maybe to you that's the big problem with it, or maybe it just has missed potential. I think the one thing that we can all agree on though is that the main flaw with this stuff is that it doesn't get you struck by lightning. I mean, what kind of game design is that? Special thanks to my channel members, like Drevosek for supporting the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon for the next video. Bye bye!